Hey there, are you with me so far this week? Good. I want you to clear the calculator from yesterday, forget about the tasks that you have to do later today, and be fully present with me here these next few minutes. You ready? Okay, cool. This morning I want to expose the jig. Everybody thinks that those that they see on the covers of magazines make it to Forbes 400 or watch Bloomberg's Icon show, that those people on there have some sort of superpowers or something, some innate genius or supernatural powers that allows them to be more disciplined than you, that they have more self-control or resolve or fortitude than you. Well, the jig is up. They do not at all. What they have is a jig. And this morning, you can get you one too. You know what a jig is, right? No, not the dance move. The mechanism used in construction to reduce effort, minimize mistakes, and expedite production and significantly improve results. Let me explain, because this will give you the supposed superpowers you think everybody else has that you don't. Are you ready? Okay, so a jig is just a device that guides a repeated action by constraining the environment in such a way to make the action go smoothly, the same each time without even having to think about it. So when a carpenter wants to cut, let's say, half a dozen boards to the same length, he or she won't measure each one, mark it, and then try to guide their saw along the line, cutting one board at a time. No, that would end up a mess. Likely each board would come out wonky and all sorts of different sizes. Instead, he or she uses a jig to guide the process along. Even if he or she is on a job site and they're not in their workshop having access to their jig saw, they will make a jig with whatever is on site. They might say, use the clean line of a freshly laid cinder block wall as a backstop to butt each board up against, and then lay the boards side by side on top of sawhorses. Then she will make measurement of the first board and the last board and maybe snap a chalk line in between those two marks. Then she'll tack a straight piece of plywood along that line, traversing the whole array of boards. This will serve as a guide for her saw. Then all he or she has to do is slide their saw along that plywood edge, taking very little mental resources, accuracy, or precision. And presto, they have 6 boards cut to perfectly equal length. What a jig does is reduce the degrees of freedom of movement, freedom of mental choices and decisions that come up in the environment. It stabilizes the process and, in doing so, lightens the burden of both memory and muscular control. This is what you want to guide your actions, behaviors, and habits. A jig. You want to jigger your environment, your daily processes, and your method of operation. You want to find ways of recruiting your surroundings for the sake of achieving your purpose with the minimum expenditure of your scarce mental resources. With the right jig system, you can execute with excellence, using far less energy, far less effort, and yet dramatically improve your desired results. Excellent execution, improved results, and less effort is what you want, right? You've probably heard the story of my chance encounter with a 94-year-old multi-billionaire. This guy started out in abject poverty as a young man and was one of the boys who stormed Normandy during World War II. He was shot and received a Purple Heart for it, in fact. When I met him at 94 years old, he was still overseeing 200 thriving portfolio companies and having a blast. A blast is an understatement, as I met him on his 200-plus foot yacht that he spends most of his time on, rather than in the office. When I asked him how he did it all, coming from abject poverty to all of this, he shared with me his Sunday planning system. Well, he called it his divine purpose document, but essentially it was his jig. It is how he set up his guiding system to focus him each week, keep him on focus with the only most essential priorities of his organization, so that he could execute with excellence and focused effort with very little chance of straying off course all week. When I applied his jig to my own life, I couldn't believe the results. Now, I'm not kidding. The very next year after applying it, all my metrics doubled. My impact, my influence, and income doubled. And at the same time, I took more vacation that year than I had in my entire life combined up to that point. And it didn't stop there. The following year, using the same jig, this Sunday planning process, which only takes about 20 minutes on Sunday, by the way, the next year, I doubled it again from on top of doubling it the year before. Every metric, over the course of only 4 years, all those metrics that I talked about, impact, influence, and bottom line, as well as vacation, time off, and real actual free time, 5x'd. 5x. You see, that's the power of a proper jig or system to plan and guide your execution, requiring less effort, less energy, and less cognitive functions all along the way. By the way, if that sounds like something you'd like to have, I'll include a link at the bottom of this Darren Daily where I walk you through this Sunday planning tool. I'm telling you, it is a game changer. But for this morning, just consider how you start forcing a jig system on your methods of operation. How do you set up your desk, your work environment? How do you plan your week, your day? How do you get dressed in the morning? Your entire morning routine. How do you pack for a trip? How do you plan for a presentation? How do you stock your briefcase or your car or your pantry? All these aspects of your environment can act as a jig to guide your execution of excellence, requiring very little effort physically or mentally, and leaving very little chance of straying off course. Now, this morning, I want you to get jiggy with it, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow morning.
All right, so I don't know about you, but I personally love the topic of productivity and priorities, especially like today's Darren Daily. In fact, the tool you heard Darren talk about is the exact same one we use here on the A-Team to win the week before it even begins. It's definitely not an easy exercise to sit down and do per se, but it is beyond worth it. If you haven't checked it out, it's Darren's sacred Sunday planning system that was taught to him by a 94-year-old multi-billionaire. So cool, right? I mean, truly. The fundamentals always stay the same, and they are so simple. In fact, Darren loved this timeless wisdom that he gained so much that he really wants to pay it forward by giving it to you for free. He's going to include it with a video tutorial to help us understand and implement this in our own day-to-day hustle and bustle busy lives. You can find it at darrenhardy.com/win-the-week, or just click the link below. You know the drill. Dive on in, and I'll see you next time.